core values would be the one part of your organizational process that is not egalitarian. You know, I'm big on transparency. I'm big on community and getting people engaged. I think that's a critical part of creating that culture of engagement. But when it comes to core values, these are things that should really come from the critical leadership, whether it's the founder of an organization, whether it's the executive team of an organization, because if it's not essential to them, if it's not what they have determined are the guiding principles of the organization, then there will be a lack of authenticity that's felt down through the organization. So I think the idea behind core values is not a creational process, it's a discovery process. Your core values are already the things, if you look at Jim Collins' definition, these are things that you would assume and take on irrespective of the industry that you're in. You know, your core value is not how you deliver a certain product. It would transcend industry, it would transcend product. Your core value is something that you would hold to even if it were a competitive disadvantage. So for example, if I say, as one of our core values is that diversity is in our DNA, it's essential to our organization, then I would not make a decision, for example, to enter into any process which would preclude the diversity that I want to build on my team. Even if it were a competitive disadvantage, I would have to assume that as part of my process. So I think the core values are a discovery process rather than a creative process, and they should be defined by the executives or leadership of the organization.
I love that. Brandon?
But it is a discovery process. I think that sometimes culture gets almost some baggage attached to it because oftentimes leadership doesn't necessarily treat it as a discovery process, they just treat it more of a creative process. So it's like, all right, let's get this whiteboard out and we're gonna come up with integrity and service and whatever we're gonna come up with. That just never rings true, and you're better off not doing something like that, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But if you approach it, the leadership comes together and sort of says, what are we already doing? What is this company all about? And I think there's usually some trails that you can kind of pick up on and then use those as footholds to then grow it into a more defined, a more thorough process, and sort of then articulate that back. But I definitely agree with you that it is a leadership function. It's not like a voting process or something like that. Yeah. But I think really the key point there is that you have to discover what your culture is, and that culture will evolve over time as well. You know, it's not the culture of Oasis when we first started was a little different than it is now. Yeah, there's still the same core value. I'm still the same person, and you know, it's still the same people or whatever. But as time grows, it gets to be more sophisticated. I think you get more refined, and it's an ongoing discovery process that shouldn't be that one time we all got together and locked ourselves in a conference room at the Marriott. It's an ongoing development process, and as new leadership comes in, as new people come into the organization, as the market shifts, as all the things that happen when a business grows, if you think that it's a creative process and not a discovery process, you're gonna have a really hard time adapting your culture as the business grows.